Hi, this is Cheryl St.Pierre of Majestic Wire Artworks. In this video, I'm going to show you how I made this hammered heart with swirls. Now this is finger swirling done here. I keep getting asked to do more projects with finger swirling, so I came up with this, and yours is going to turn out different. Everyone is it's all different, and it's just going to take practice and playing. What's nice about this project, instead of having something woven where you're using the existing wires to do the finger swirling, you have a framework that you can do your wrapping, and if you're not happy with it, haha, great. You can cut it off and start again. And you know what? I did start again with this one because I had planned to use different beads and it didn't work out. So I'm going to show you what you need to do to make this. What you're going to need for supplies is you're going to need a hammer and anvil, and I have a chasing hammer. If you don't have a chasing hammer with the ball peen on it, then you could just use a regular hammer and just have the flattened look. It's not going to be as nice, but you'll still get the effect you want. Now I've used 16 gauge wire here because it's not as strong as I would like it in some aspects, but the way the bail is made, I really like using the 16 gauge because it gave me that option of bending the wire, whereas a 14 gauge, you might be able to do it, but I find it a little bit hard to do. So that's why I went with the 16 gauge. So you could choose whichever one you wanted to do for that. Okay, so what you do, oh great, this is an 8mm round bead and two 6mm roundelles for supplies. You need your flush cutters, you need your chain nose pliers, you need your round nose pliers, your ruler of course, and your anvil to do your hammering on. Okay, so let's begin. So you take your 16 gauge wire, or 14 if you're choosing to do that. You find the center, and I'm going to actually measure it. So it's 10 inches, and I want 5 inches as the center. And now I'm taking my round nose pliers, and the largest part of your round nose pliers, you make a loop like this. Okay, now if you notice, the loop is actually going this way in your heart. So the next step that you need to do is take your chain nose pliers and bend them at a 45, and this is difficult to do, and this would be even harder with the 14 gauge. So again, you might want to rethink using 14, but if you've got the strength that you can do that, that would be great for you that way. Okay, so there. Now, you may notice that I also have that hoop a little bit forward on the front because you want it to lay flat. I had to work to do that. Okay, so, and you want the starting point on the heart to be fairly level too, and if the hoop widens out a tiny bit while you do that, it's not going to hurt anything. Okay, so I can see that my wires are lending itself towards this side of the hoop. So that's going to be the back of my heart. And now I'm going to bend this upwards on both sides. And it's a little bit off, but it's still going to work out. Okay, and now I'm going to shape a heart. And I don't want to do all the finicky work of shaping the heart on the video, because you're going to do your own. You're not really watching me do mine. So I am not going to torture you for that. Okay, so this is an approximate. I had this frame for the rest of the video. I did it in 2 phases and then put the videos together. So you just use your, if it's not wide enough, you just use your pliers to widen it out like this. And always have, well, you're going to be hammering it, so you still don't want sharp mars, but you know what I mean. You know what, chances are you know really well what I mean. Okay, so it's an open heart, and I've made it a little bit more round at the bottom to give it more pizzazz. And then I snip off, once you've decided how big it is. The other one was 2 inches wide. So this is approximately 2 inches wide. Then I snip it here. And you know, you might need a file. I didn't need to file my other heart. It just went smooth. But you might want to have a metal file in your supplies too. I'll put that in the description. And then I curved this down, and then I snipped that. And then when I hammer, I start at the ends. So that's the priority. Okay, if your hoop is a little bit not flat, mine's perfectly flat. If it's not, then just have it at the end while you do your hammering so it doesn't get in your way. And then, so what you're going to do is you're going to hammer it as thick as you want. And it's going to change shape on you a little bit. Not too bad, but you just have to, every so often, frequently actually, keep it in shape. As soon as you see that it's bending out of shape, put it back. And then it's going to curl up on you, and then you just take it from the back, and you have your hoop on the end of your anvil, and you gently tap it. You don't want it hard to ruin all the hammering that you did, but just to keep the shape. And you just do this over and over, and the more you do it, the stronger your heart's going to be, because it's work hardening it. And basically, that's all there's to it. So I'm going to pause this now, and we will start with the next phase of the video. Okay, so here's my completed heart frame, and it measures approximately 2 inches, 5 centimeters-ish wide. And I'm going to do some finger swirling on it, and I'm going to use 3 beads, 8mm bead and 2 6mm roundelle beads. So these are both opalite. I've got pink opalite and white opalite, and 20 gauge wire. Okay, and your 20 gauge wire, I have approximately 3 feet, and I want to find the center of it right here. Bend it like that. That way you know it's the center. And now I'm going to anchor it on this side and then work my way on this side, and I'm going to swirl the top right hand, kind of like, that's my goal anyways, to swirl it and wrap it around like that with finger swirls. And let's start by just, it's always awkward to start with. Okay, I'm going to take my chain nose pliers and cinch those up together like that. Come around. Okay, and now this is the back end. And now I'm going to snake my way further up the heart. Okay, so this is the back end, so this is actually the left side. So as you see, I just swirled around it. And now I'm in a position to give that angled look. Okay, so I'm going to give it a swirl on top here. And I'm going to straighten out this wire. You got to be careful how often you straighten your wire because you don't want to work hard on it too much. It's all twisted up. It tends to do that. You just have to untangle it as you go. Straighten it out. Okay. And I'm going to, got another swirl. I have to decide what direction do I want to go next, because you need to periodically anchor it again. And I mean, it's fairly stable right now. And I noticed that it slid up there. It's gonna do that. Okay, what should I do next? I think, you know, I think I'm gonna keep it wide open, and I'm gonna introduce, yes, I'm going to introduce my opalite bead, and I'm going to try and have it here. So that's going to be over, and we can do some, I mean, we can introduce more wire afterwards if we need to. So I'm putting on my bead. I want it to sit kind of center-ish, you know, like that. And now I'm going to take this, so that's the center, that's the innermost wire that's on, and I'm going to circle it kind of to try and lock it into place with the wire, give it a frame. It doesn't always cooperate, but I'm just wrapped it around like that. And now, in order to lock that into place, I'm going to make a tight little swirl locking these together at the end. Like that. See how that just put the two together, and it helps that stay down. And now, what should we do next? I think I'm going to add another bead. So now I've got a 6mm roundelle on there. You know what? Let's put both beads on there and just make it like a tail. And then we can concentrate on just doing wire work. Okay, so what we will do is keep this on top because it's the focal wiring, and then we'll work from the back and to fill in the wire. So just like that. How does that look? So I'm going to wrap around here now, anchor it off. So that was fairly simple. You should be able to follow a similar feature. And now I'm just going to start decorating it with swirls. I can do a couple more on top. See, like that. I'm going to use up this wire, and we're definitely going to add more wire. I can see that's how it's going to work. Okay, so now we're just going to play with swirling. See, so, and I wanted to keep it kind of at a line like that, so I'm going to anchor it on there again. So when we're doing the under part, because this wire's in our way, anchoring it's going to be much more difficult. So the wiring actually is going to become more difficult, definitely. Not a bad thing. I mean, you just take your time. Okay, now I'm going to do swirl the other direction. You know, I'm at a point where I almost want to end this wire, but I'm not going to. I'm going to go, I'm going to stretch it like this underneath and go underneath like so. So now we're starting to do the back work. So that's the front and it's back. And with shorter wires is definitely recommended at this point, and we really are shorter, so that works. Okay. Okay, see how it's filling it up? You could keep it lacy and open like this, or you could fill it up lots. You can experiment and play with that. Definitely. Okay. So now I'm going to anchor it and I'm going to tuck that in. Now if you want to finish off a wire, you can do little, whoops, sorry. You can do little spirals, but you don't have to either. So I'm going to do a combination of where I show you how to do a spiral and some where we don't do a spiral. So I'm just going to do a swirl. How do I want to finish this one? Decisions, decisions. Okay, so I want that bead to go down. I want it to be there. Okay, so I'm going to snip this off at this point. It's nice and full there. That might get in my way later. Might be problematic, but I'm snipping off enough to give myself room to wrap it around the frame to close it off. Remember, yours is going to be different, and yours might finish off different than mine, so you have to pay attention how close you are to the end of the wire and finish off when you get there. You might want to start with shorter wire because it's easier to work with. Okay, tuck that in carefully, not to mar the wire, so you always press gently. Okay, so I've just wrapped it around. I've got no rough edges. It's locked in there. It's in place. If you want, you can adjust wire like this. You can put it down on a surface and flatten it. You can choose to stop at this point, or you can choose to add on a little bit more. So I'm going to get myself some more wire. I'm going to pause it and after I cut. Okay, so I'm back and I cut myself a 1.5 foot piece. That might be too long. Might not be. It might be just perfect. But it's always a guesswork. So I'm finding the center again and we're going to anchor it. In the center here. So I'm just putting it like this. And it's going to be difficult, definitely. Just do the best you can. Wrap it around once. And I'm going to work from the back. So and I'm going to twist it just to give that anchor a little bit of strength. And now I'm going to do some swirls there. behind the bead background noise. Okay, so see it's filling it up. So I've just given it a kind of like a L shape. And kind of like that. How does that look from the front? See, I don't want it solid. I do want it lacy. I keep fighting. Oh, I just broke my nail. I keep fighting with the wire here. Hopefully yours doesn't do that. And you know, I'm going to attach it there. I like what it's doing in the back. It's simple. It looks nice from the back. And now I'm going to, that's where I'm going to do my little swirls. I'm going to spread it apart and wrap. So 1.5 feet was too long. I could have gotten away with less. But I'd rather have too much than too little. Okay, that one's going up there. This one's going down here. Tighten them up. Pinch it in. Kind of lock them in place a little bit. Give it stability. Okay. And now I'm going to make the swirl, the spiral swirls at the back instead of the front because I don't want to take away from the finger work that we did. Okay, so I'm going to cut them approximately 1 inch long. So it doesn't, you don't have to measure, you can just take a guess. You don't want it really shorter than 1 inch because then, well, that's up to you. So I'm making that spiral. Because it's background, if you don't have the center tight, it's okay. So you don't have to be as cautious. But it's kind of loose, and that's okay. See, it's not going to catch on anything really. You can pinch it in a little bit, gently. Just leave it loose. See how that's got a background swirl there? It kind of filled it up. And now I'm going to do the other one under here. So you can just choose where you want to put yours. And I'm making this far from perfect. And that's okay. Big and wild. Now, just so you know, they are loose, they are springy, they are bouncy, and that's okay. All we're doing is kind of giving it an anchor to stay on. And there, I think I am quite pleased with that. Now, I honestly think that this would look beautiful antiqued, then buffed to show the hammering, and then lacquer it with a spray lacquer, or you can choose it just leave it raw and let it tarnish on its own. But if you wanted the shininess, you could spray lacquer it at this point. I find, however, I lacquered my granddaughter's necklace and a month later the lacquer wore off. So there's no, I've been asked how to make it so it doesn't tarnish. There really isn't a way to do it, but that's permanent. But you know, have a buff on hand, have it tarnished, and bring out your highlights, and then it just shows the work. And I personally prefer that type of look anyways. Okay, so now it's ready to put it on your chain. I wouldn't use a huge bulky chain, but a chain that's going to fit there, because this wire here moved into there, as you can see. It took a little bit of the space, but it's still lots of room for a chain. Okay, so there it is. And if you enjoyed this video, please share it with others. Like my video, leave a comment, please. As many comments, the more comments I get, the better my videos do. So I really appreciate that. And you can check out my links. This is the last month I'm doing craft along, so you won't be able to join those anymore, but I've got different things coming up. So, okay, thank you for joining me. God bless, and we'll see you in the next one.